So my name's Nicola. I'm one of the co-founding directors of Flourish, and we're running one of our Time to Grow sessions this morning, supporting women as a force for social change in and around the Greater Manchester area, creating different kinds of social enterprises or looking at career pathways in the voluntary community sector. We're starting one of our sessions looking at problem solving, because what we find is people are very driven by purpose and passion, but they don't necessarily take a step back to think about why they're doing what they're doing. And it's very easy to get blinkered, either in the products and services that you think you should be offering or what you know how to do at that time. And people don't take a step back and think, is this the best solution to this issue? Is this the best solution that I can deliver with my knowledge and skills? And how else could I be making money at what I'm doing to make this sustainable? So there's different reasons for taking some time to take a step back and think, what is it I'm trying to do and why?
Nicola,
Yes.
can I interrupt you for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
I was stuck in the breakout room and I think the rest might be too.
Let's have a look. It shouldn't be, because the breakout room was closed.
Well, I had to actually tell myself to come out of it, and the other 3 seemed to still be there, unless I can't see them at the moment because obviously we're screen sharing.
Let's have a look. Just bear with me. Good. Let's have a look. We'll just check. No, that's a good. Thanks, Morag, for mentioning that. It looks like, yeah, there's 3 of them hidden out there. I thought I'd close that down. So, God, you learn something new every day on Zoom, don't you? Thank you. I put end breakout, so I wonder why they're still there. Well, there's 45 seconds for them to arrive, but they'll be hearing when they're good and ready.
Okay.
Excellent.
I did wonder what was happening.
In a way, at least you've had a chance for a bit of a chit chat. You've not had to listen to me.
Well, no, none of us were. That's the point. And we were all just closed down.
Oh, okay. Fair dues. Hopefully there'll be 24 seconds and they'll be in the zone. So for those of you that are kind of looking at this slide and thinking, what is it and what's going on, we're just heading into a session on problem solving, because as I was saying, hopefully everybody's joined us back from breakouts, and I'm just checking we're all in the zone. I think we're all here. Excellent. So yeah, we've taken some breaks and we've come back and we're moving into the workshop now, looking at problem solving, because what we were saying was that often what can happen, people get stuck into what they're doing and they get a bit blinkered running along doing what they're doing, and they can be missing opportunities. They can be banging their head against a wall because they're not getting funded, or people aren't listening, or they're not reaching the right people. And what we find is by doing something that looks like child's play, which in fact this looks, you're just drawing a tree, so it's pretty straightforward. What we get people to do with this is really think through what is going on here, and is what I'm designing and doing and looking for the best solution to community need right now. So if I walk through what the tool is, and I give you a couple examples of how it can work, we'll then put you into breakout groups, just in 3s, or it's in a small way, to discuss what you're thinking and what you found out. So if I just quickly walk through this. So here you'll see this tree, and what we're saying is that in the middle of this tree is that in the middle of the trunk, you've got the kind of the core problem, so what's the main problem that you're trying to address? So in the action learning groups that I've just been running, there were various core problems. There were some problems around, older people being isolated and not being independent. So if we take that as an example and walk that through, we'll see what happens here. So the core issue that you're trying to address is the fact that older people are isolated and not independent. And if we backtrack to what causes that, so what are the root causes to this problem? Ultimately we all get old, and getting older affects our physical health, sometimes other aspects of our health. Other root causes of that might be family breakdown, or not having a large family, or family that might be living far away can cause that. people's personal circumstances or their own mental health or their characteristics and behaviours and their confidence can affect that. Their physical mobility, their access to transport. There are all sorts of reasons that might cause older people to be socially isolated in their homes. The effects of that, is that, people's health deteriorates physically and mentally, and people's houses might start to become in disrepair, and people might not be able to work and be struggling financially, and they might not have access, to be able to pay for what it is they need. So there's like fuel poverty in certain groups of older people. And as you'll see, we're starting to get into more detailed effects here. The main effect of this is that, older people aren't contributing to society and aren't accessing the support they need and are feeling isolated, potentially lonely, and potentially feels a loss of sense of purpose. As I say, those detailed effects start to play out, like, physical and mental health of the older people may deteriorate. They can't contribute back within their families like they used to, or they can't get into work, like we were just saying. They can't afford to pay for their fuel bills or whatever. There's a whole range of detailed effects that happen as a result of that. And then societally, we miss out as a country or as a society, because the knowledge and skills of older people aren't contributing to our daily lives, our economy, our innovation. We miss out because older people's knowledge and awareness of culture and history isn't captured and retained and shared to be able to learn from and to be able to celebrate. And we have a less diverse community and society as a result. So can you see, through me describing that story there, we kind of started with the core problem of older people being sort of socially isolated and not getting access to what they need. We looked at why that could be. We started to kind of jump past the main effects and got really into kind of what are the detailed effects of what plays out as a result of this, and then how we lose out as a nation or as a world if we don't tackle this issue. And so when you map this out, and I would say start doodling now, don't listen to me, start doodling out things to consider. What is the core issue that you're trying to address, and what might some of the root causes be for why that happens. What are some of the wider effects? So what's the ripple effect that then starts to happen because this issue is arisen? And that then gives you this big picture as to what you could be doing and where you could be tackling. So in the context of what we've just said, older people in their homes, the solutions that you're coming up with, what are they doing? Which root causes are they tackling? Because, if you try and tackle all the root causes, you'll be too many things to too many people. So sometimes focusing in on one or two root causes, either because you know something about them, because they're prevalent and they're very clear in your community or in where you're operating, or because national policy and strategic priorities right now dictate that these are the most important issues. And you'll then start to look at, so how are you having a detailed effect? Are you affecting the families? Because once you start looking at what happens as a result of all of this, are you working with those older people directly? Are you working with their families? Are you working with agencies that support older people? Are you working with the media? Maybe as part of this, you're really frustrated because older people are socially isolated. They're not getting access to what they need, and they don't have a voice to explain what the problems are. So you might not deliver a service or activities or anything. You might be running community consultations and research and policy work, or you might be working with the media to support older people to tell their stories and lobby the government to change things that they see needed. So there's always more than one way to skin a cat. There's always more than there's always so many potential solutions for the issue you're trying to address. And you can get bogged down in just what you happen to have stumbled across or what you know how to do. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't take a step back, you can think that yours is you can miss out on opportunities ultimately. And the way to kind of then try and help prioritize how you're moving forward and whether that's the right thing to do is moving into this 1, 2, 3. So we've looked at ABC. What's the core issue you're trying to address? You backtrack and look at what are the causes of this issue and really peel back the layers of the onion as to why this might happen. You then start to move forward into so what's then happening as a result for these people, for their families, for other people and agencies that work with them and for society as a whole. And you then think, right, which aspects of this am I most passionate about addressing? What is going to have the most impact? Ultimately, that's what the funder's interested in. And I'm going to be brutal here because I know a few of you work in art and there's nothing personal, but some of you might want to run art classes in order to do this. Some of you might want to do poetry. Some of you might want to do household cleaning to help people. What's going to have the most impact, and how do you know that? And is that what is going to have the biggest effect on their lives? And have you asked them? And how do you know that this is what they want? And then ultimately, you're only going to do what you've got the skills and knowledge to do. And so it's a case of thinking, where do your skills, passions and interests best align with this picture? And it might really niggle you because you might think, oh, do you know what? I'm doing this right now and I can do this. But if only I could do that, I would have so much more impact. If only I could do that, I there's hundreds of things like what I'm trying to do. I can see them, that there's different kinds of people and agencies all around me. But if I can do this, or if I can partner with them, we can tackle this side of the tree. So it's just, we throw this out there as a, not quite to blow your mind, but to sort of help you see the bigger picture for what you're trying to address and help give you the edge really around what could be innovative. What's a real problem that other people aren't tackling? What have you noticed, either as a root cause or as an effect, that's really not getting addressed, and you've got the skills or the knowledge, or you could develop networks and partners in order to do that, because that's what will help set you apart from other projects, from other funds. It's what the funders will be interested in, the fact that you've taken the time to really understand and look at what the issues are. And you might actually spot areas for new research. And what we were saying in our action learning group earlier is social enterprises often forget they have a real wealth of knowledge and access to networks, and they have trust in their communities. And research isn't rocket science. Asking people questions about what's bothering them, or what's they're not got access to, or what they'd like to see done differently. There's a real skill there, and often social entrepreneurs have a good remit to do that. And voluntary community organisations, policymakers, local authorities, even the private sector, have budgets to pay for that stuff. So we're just throwing this out there to help you kind of think this through as an alternative, and to strengthen the quality of your ideas. Because ultimately, when you go for funding, whether it's in an application or whether you get the luxury of an interview, or whether you're pitching to a bunch of angel investors, they're going to want to know some of this stuff, and they're going to want to know that you know your stuff. So I'm going to leave you for a few minutes to just consider this from your own point of view, and consider this from your own organisation. So that you work through these ABCs and 1, 2, 3s for 5 minutes or so, just to get thinking. But yeah, 5 or 10 minutes max. And then we're going to break you into little discussion groups so that you can share your thoughts and share your problem tree with a couple of other people, and see what people have been thinking, see if any new opportunities have come to light as a result of what you're kind of mapping out, or whether or not this has really helped you clarify these are the root causes I'm trying to get to grips with. These are the main effects of what's happening as a result of this problem, and I know I've got these 2 or 3 services that tackle this. And that's what we'll put you into. I'll do my I'll try and get my breakout groove on and not cock it up this time, and see if we can get you into conversation. So 5 minutes or so, and then we'll let you know what we're doing. I think that's working. And there's 12 obviously, you fit perfectly into breakouts of 3. And we'll just see how you're doing there. And I know we've got different people on the programme, and some are looking more at developing social enterprise ideas, and others are looking at work options. But you're all here because, you know, you're women who've got, you know, a passion for purpose and wanting to create social change through what you're doing. And the same thing can go for looking for work, actually. So that if you know that you've got a particular passion for working in these sorts of areas, or working, maybe you're wanting to work with people who've you know, experienced trauma, or people who've got sort of multiple complex needs, and you know that you've got an interest in wanting to work with them in a particular way, having a think about, you know, what are some of the root causes as to why those people face those challenges and what are the effects. You will then start to be able to map out what kinds of organizations exist that are trying to tackle these things, you know. So whether you're looking for work or whether you're creating an enterprise, you can look at this from your own business point of view, so that you're coming up with your own best quality solutions, products and services to the, you know, societal or community issues that are out there. But you can also look at this from the point of view that on your tree, when you're looking at different effects and different root causes, you can be thinking about who are the other organizations out there that really tackle this stuff well, or, you know, who are the small organizations, who are the large organizations, ultimately who are my competitors, and what are they tackling and doing that's different to me. You know, would help you as an entrepreneur to think about how you position yourself differently. But also, if you're looking for work and you're mapping out different agencies and organizations that do this stuff, it will help you work out where you want to be and who you want to be looking on the websites of, or sending your CVs, or arranging a coffee conversation with the chief executive somewhere, and we can help you do that if you've not got those links, because then you'll be applying for work in an area of that problem that best suits your knowledge, skills or interests. Again, you know, looking for work, you can just apply for jobs till the cows come home, but if you are looking for work in particular themes, in particular ways, you'll meet with either employers, partners, or allies and competitors who are better aligned to where and how you want to operate and work. So I hope that makes sense. Right, we've given you some time to have a think, you know, and you can keep thinking in your breakouts, or you can do this at your leisure for the rest of the week as well. But I'm going to try and open these breakouts so that we've got some time to give you a good 15 to 20 minutes to have a look at what other people have been finding as they've been jotting down their thoughts and doodling out their trees. And hopefully you should have at least 2, if not 3 people in your breakout. Every breakout's got 3 people, but I don't know if everybody's had, we've got a couple of people who are dipping in and out that might have to have gone to take a call or have had to go do something. So I'm going to open the rooms and leave you guys to chat. You don't have to take notes back for us. We're not going to make you report back. This is just a way for you to connect with some other people, see what they're doing, and think about, you know, what if any light bulb moments have come on for them whilst I've been peeling back the layers of the onion and the ideas and the issues that they're trying to look at. So I'm clicking open all rooms. So you should get a little note to say join this breakout. So feel free to join those breakouts, have a great chat just on what you've explored, and see who's there. And we'll bring you back just after 12, so that you can we'll do a little bit of feedback before we break for lunch. So feel free to join those groups. You all right there? Is everybody? Yeah, I think everybody's great.
Have a go around for any membership. So things from badminton, walking, netball, Zumba, table tennis, walking, a bit of yoga, classes, everything. So although the project is not aimed at women, we just seem to get women. If we get a man at a Zumba class, it's nice, but it's a surprise. And we have got a couple of classes that are ladies only as well. So obviously that they're on hold now. We was looking at the first class returning this week, but we'll carry on that later on. I've also got some funding to deliver a walking project as well. So I had 40 walks planned for November, which are on hold till we come back. So my role's always externally funded. I'm always trying to get new people on the project, working with partners, and just getting women active as well. And you know, it's about getting these people active that might not have exercised before. And I've got sort of like the self-esteem, lack of confidence, depression, just trying to get out to each group. So if anyone's interested, then my details with the chat.
Thank you, Sarah. Fantastic work you're doing. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Can I come to Karen next, please? Hi, Karen.
Hello. So thank you for inviting me. I called there because Suzanne invited me along. I not doing it specifically for him, but quite organically, he's gelling with that. I'm just trying to think, I was splitting on top of my head. More women than men that approach me. I work for Community Catalyst, and Community Catalyst is a CIC, social enterprise, and we work across the country. Local councils, stakeholders, support enterprises, really small micro community enterprises, to set up support services for older people and adults with learning disabilities. And maybe because that caring aspect traditionally is kind of a theme that runs through what we offer, why we get forward in very much anyway. But some of the sort of services that are being set up are being specifically at women, and particularly Asian communities, that people wanted to set up. So I do some specific ones around menopause, women's health, etc. So I just got interested to come today, and I already know some people in here. I know about Up, like coming up, I know about some of those things. It'd be good to kind of hear what else is out there, and obviously anyone who might be benefit from hearing about what I do, because I help to set those ideas up. So if you're working with people who've got an idea or want to do something a bit different to support either of those two groups, and I can help develop that.
Brilliant, thanks Karen, that's a good offer, thank you. Some of the examples of the micro enterprises are very niche, but it's about people's passions. And
it is, and it's really about anyone can become involved. So although the support services for adults with learning disabilities or older people, it doesn't stop someone with a learning disability or another person setting something up. It's very inclusive, and really welcome anyone who wants to set something up, or even if it's something honest, we want to diversify the idea to reach those two groups and have something slightly different. I can work with people to do that.
Fantastic, thank you, Karen. I see Michaela's joined us, which is fantastic, Michaela. We're just going around introductions, Michaela, to people, and if you don't mind, I'll come to you if you can hold on, if you've got some time, and we can have a little update on your work at Flourish as well, Michaela. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, can I do that now?
Oh, you can do it now.
Oh, sorry to be a pain. I've got to go just after 12. I just managed to put I'm running another event on our Time to Grow programme that supports women to create change they see needed in communities, and they're all in breakouts, beautifully timed, so snuck in. And I would just say a quick... Yeah, of course, yeah, I'll come on. I just know my Wi-Fi gets a bit sticky, and I'm clicking start video, so we'll see it. I don't want to waste time for people. So I've just put in the chat that Flourish were one of the organisation that did the community consultation recently. There we are. Sorry if I'm breaking up. Yeah, we did this consultation recently for the GMCA, who were looking at recommissioning women's services, and some of you were involved in that, so thank you. And I know Suzanne and the guys at Action Together are looking at galvanising a network of women supporting women, women's organisations to be better connected. So this is great. In the chat, I've just put the link to the video that some of you may have attended that event, but some of you weren't able to. So if you want to learn what other people said and what the key headline findings are, they're there. I'm just going to put in the chat before I go some other links. We run various training courses and programmes at Flourish, and run a lot of free peer learning events. We've got a network of over 750 women change makers. Our role really is supporting women to lead the change they see needed, and we support people to set up social enterprises, charities, other community organisations, either at start-up or scale-up levels. Feel free to connect with us after this, and I will try and keep in contact with Suzanne. I know we're talking about some options, aren't we, around how to support people, but it's just great to see that this group's formed and that it's evolving. So hope it achieves some great things.
Thank you, Michaela, and great that you've been able to pop in and see us. So thanks for that. Appreciate that. And the link is in the chat, so people can have a look at that later if you want the consultation, and that's about commissioning women's services. So great, thanks, Michaela. Could I come to Ms. Warner next? Good morning, Ms. Warner. Can't hear you, Ms. Warner. That sounds like it.
All right, hang on. Try that.
There we go. Oh, no. Shall we come back to you, Miss Warner? Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to you and let you give you a chance to get it sorted out. Okay, could I come to Asma next?
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Asma and I run a peer support group for survivors and victims of domestic abuse. I'm a survivor myself. I fled 2.5 years ago, so it's about a year ago that I started it. I started public speaking to raise awareness about domestic abuse, signs, and how, like, you know, the communities and professionals need to listen and not dismiss. And I've just learned a lot in my journey since I fled. So I want to just use that knowledge to share and help other women, men as well now, and children. So in the year last year, the group was first called Soul Sisters, and it became called Soul Sisters Empowering Women. Finally, now at the moment, it's Soul Sisters Empowering People. During the lockdown, I've been doing a lot of work, like doing Zoom, running groups, like where it's you know, letting the ladies share just share their experiences, or hear other ladies talk and know that they're not alone, or just even build their confidence, do things like we've been doing lots of mindful walking. I know it's really good for your mental health because, you know, we suffer with that a lot as well. Physical health as well, obviously keeping the social distancing. Did a couple of social distancing picnics as well in Rochdale Town Centre. The women, I think we did some like Zoom sessions, but we did WhatsApp group calls as well because some of the women don't have access to like laptops or don't even know how to use Zoom, unfortunately, or can't access it. They're not allowed to. They've been told they can't. So we've been keeping like a weekly WhatsApp call and just basically just talking, seeing each other, having a laugh, and it's hopefully going to become, at some point, it's going to become a charity. It's just looking into doing that. I've been networking a lot. I come from a corporate background myself. I have a degree, so I've got a lot of experience in that side of like networking. And just I've been advocating for some of the moms that have been going through remote hearings with the family courts and getting help from like Legal Action for Women and Women Against Rape to, you know, how to self-help themselves, because there's a lot of things that we can do for ourselves. Like there was a woman who wasn't being listened to, the language barrier, she wasn't getting legal aid, and she was asked to pay her fees. However, once she came to myself, because we give like practical and emotional support, I was able to listen to her and offer her help so that she can get legal aid now. We're on that route now to get her legal aid. So, because I just went through a lot in my journey, and I just thought I want to help other women now. It makes me feel good as well. And it's the future, it's for my son's future and other, you know, could be children that are growing up, their future as well, to make it better place, really. So that's me anyway. Thank you.
Fantastic, Asma. Really valuable, fantastic work you're doing as well. Thank you, Asma. Tracy, next Tracy, please. Good morning, Tracy.
Morning. First, thank you very much for inviting me along. Just listening to all the great work everybody's doing. I'm coming from a different angle, so it's really good to hear about the face-to-face work that's going on in that support, say with the community at these very strange times it is. So.
More of it is the social isolation, but more the detailed part specifically after ill health and deterioration. So it's like once they become more isolated,
Excellent. Welcome back there. Oh, I see we've got a new addition who's joined us. Very cool. Hopefully everybody makes it back in one piece. I know we had a few people stranded in breakouts, and thanks to Morag Hawkeyes spotting we weren't all back, we rescued people who didn't even know they were stuck in a breakout. So I'm just checking the breakouts to make sure nobody is. Let's make sure nobody's in one. No, it doesn't look like you are. Brilliant, lovely. So I'm gonna, hopefully that was useful. It'd be good maybe perhaps if one person from each group just fed back. I don't know if we might pick on a few people. I can't remember who was where, but perhaps if I come to Vicky, and just, how was that for your group?
Yeah, it was good. I think when we looked at the problems, sort of putting it in some words and encapsulating what the need is in sort of the language that we need to use is really important. So it really helped to segment down the different effects and the root causes and everything. So yeah, we can see how this is going to help us when we're applying for funding, and not just that, but when we're talking to people about what services we offer. It makes it a lot clearer.
Yeah. Just a word of warning, we are recording parts of this today, so if you'd rather not have your face on any of this, feel free to go on black screen or whatever. I might come to Jenny, is it Jenny Ann? I want to call you Jenny Ann Smith, is that right? Were you in a different group?
No, I was with Vicky's group.
Typical, it's like pick a pair, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'll be happy to go ahead.
Vicky and Anna were in a group.
For our group, one of the highlights for us actually was looking at data, because I mentioned that it really stood out to me when you mentioned doing research, and we felt that one of the big challenges with funding from sort of like trusts as well as the government and the council and whatnot is being able to articulate the value of what you're providing. And they like numbers and they like data, and because a lot of our social enterprise motivated actions are focused on the people and trying to provide value to the people, it can be hard to articulate that information in pounds and numbers. So the highlight for us is definitely either picking a stream or looking at kind of streams that we can constantly monitor in order to clarify where our financial, we just decided to focus on the financial, but to be able to say that because of what we do, you are saved X amount in the council. Because of what we do, these people don't go to therapy that they used to go to, and that saves you this much.
Absolutely.
And being able to clarify in that way. So that was our highlight.
Perfect. And from that, I mean, there's a session coming up further into the new year around measuring social value, and there's probably a listen again option on the webinar list that I gave you earlier around that as well, if that's a topic that's a hot topic for you at the minute. And I think,
can I just share something that we did at work? We introduced the chair-based exercises as part of reablement, and we were trying to capture it because it was a pilot scheme at first. So we tried to focus on what the outcomes we was hoping for. So we did a questionnaire, just 5 questions on how they were managing in the home, if they had to stop, and if there was accessing outside, and how they scored themselves as we were starting. And then we also asked them to do it at the end of the programme, and everybody's had changed. So that might be an option for people if you focus on what it is you're wanting to impact, and then how they personally.
Sure. Certainly, I know Flourish Together, a lot of our income, part of our business model is social value measurement. We're social value measurement specialists, and I spend my life writing social value reports for people on various budgets. And so we've got a lot of insights on that. And as I say, there's a webinar that we've got that's coming up, and a listen again option if you're desperate for that now. And it looks like Alice has mentioned in the chat here that she's also just done some training, so she's obviously interested to share some resources there. Alice, were you in a different group from any of the ones that we've spoken to? I just wonder what it was like for your group. Were you in a group with Vicky or with
no, it was Miki and I've lost her, Emma.
Brilliant. Do you want to just share a bit from your group in terms of what you made of the chat, or anything come to light?
It was just, it's very useful just to look at the root causes. I think that was a really interesting conversation, and I think it just resonated a lot how important it is to do something that's relevant to us. So something that's not that's based within our experience means so much more than just doing something for money.
Yeah.
That was quite important.
But it's getting that balance, isn't it? And I think part of this as well is to help people to work out how they could diversify, because certainly through COVID, what you thought you were going to deliver might have had to change. And for some people, it's adaptable. It can go online, it can do whatever. But for other people, they might have to go back to the drawing board a little bit for 6 to 12 months and think, oh, this isn't going to work for now. What other issues are going on for this community, or what other aspects, what other angles or lenses can I put on the change I'm trying to create and the skills and knowledge that I have to create new products and services? So it's another reason. Have I missed a group there? I feel like, did we get a little bit of feedback from all groups?
I don't think you have, but when Aisha too was talking, I mean, we were talking about the social impact that we were also having, but both of the other people that were with me, I'm trying to think, we were talking as well about how do you show the benefit that potentially you are going to save government, other organizations, whoever you're going to the funding for. Yeah. So we were talking specifically about finances as well as the social. Sure. So basically, I mean, there are a lot of studies out in Google, and I think what we kind of said was you need to concentrate potentially on one element that you think you're making a difference on and go and research that. Look at a different element, go and research that. So you're
coming on to that actually, Morag, in just a minute. So as part of PETAL reports, so you make a good point there, that doing your research and using policy documents. So if you haven't got the time, the knowledge or the skills to do your own research, and even if you have, the bit of research you can do with your client group is one story. What hundreds of existing agencies have done, they will have done all of their research and what you need to know. You just need to know where to find it. So we're coming on to a little bit of that, but most of that comes in our social value measurement workshop, which we'll come on to with people a little bit later in the programme. And as I say, if you're chomping at the bit for that now, the Listen Again webinars listed on our Flourishing Beyond COVID page. So thank you for that, and thanks for looking at it from all angles. Hopefully it's really helped sort of tease things out a little bit further for you. And before we take a lunch break, we just wanted to show you some other tools that help with the whole kind of problem solving stuff and identifying needs before we then go into a workshop this afternoon on personas led by Jo. So couple of things, and these lead a little bit more into the business planning side. So when you've unpacked this suitcase, or you've peeled back the layers of the onion, you've grappled with this tree and tried to work out, you know, what are all these different issues that are going on and how do I make sense of them? And you'll start to have a think about what products, services, ideas or solutions it is you're trying to come up with. And that will then, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff left up in the air there. And you think, you know, well, how do I prioritize this? Or how do I know if what I'm doing is any good? How do I know if what I'm doing is going to work, or if there are risks attached to it? A tool which quite a lot of you will have come across before, but is a helpful, quick fag packet way to work out what's going on here. Is this the right angle and avenue to take? You know, when you're trying to think, well, I want to work with you know, this particular community group, so this older, you know, we talked before about older people, so, you know, I'm planning on working with older people, and I've seen that these particular root causes are causing them, you know, issues around social isolation, not getting access to support they need, losing their confidence, not contributing to society, and I want to address that, or I want to help make a difference there by developing these particular services. You can then use a SWOT analysis to start to think about, is your idea going to stack up? Is it strong enough? Is it viable? And what could possibly go wrong? And so the SWOT analysis is a very quick and easy tool, accessible tool, where you can just draw a cross on a piece of paper, or you can use these slides afterwards as a bit of a template to think about, you know, with your ideas, with your services, with what you're trying to do. What are the strengths around this? And strengths might look like you've got really good networks into older people, or you've got links with lots of community centres that gives you reach into the community that you're working with. It might be that you've got some specialist knowledge or skills. It might be that there's a lot of funding and support around for that particular group, whether it's older people, whether it's young people, whether it's people with health inequalities, whether it's people from Black, Asian and other minority ethnic groups. What are some of the strengths in terms of what it is that you're trying to do and who you're trying to work with at the moment? And that, likewise, thinking of that in the same vein on, what are some of the opportunities as well that could come up around what you're doing, what's on the horizon, it could be collaborative partnership opportunities. It could be the fact that that there's a new space opened up that you could be working in or working with. It could be new funds that are coming online. What are the opportunities? What are the weaknesses here? So weaknesses might be things to do with marketing, around raising awareness are often weaknesses, things to do with the fact that whatever you're doing right now isn't a policy priority. You come up with something innovative, or you're trying to work with a group that people aren't paying attention to, and so finding resources for that is hard. Certainly in light of COVID, a lot of the money that's out there to help people has been really battened down around survival, and some of the funds to help people innovate or do things with wider groups that perhaps aren't on a kind of hit list of who's most effective is a kind of weakness at the minute, but can also be an opportunity in creating new partnerships. And what are some of the threats? What could sabotage what you're doing? Who's your competition? What's the current landscape and the current climate you've got going on that could hamper or hinder what you're doing? So the SWOT analysis, as it says, is it's a type of troubleshooting, problem solving and prioritizing tool. It's actually a tool that is worth doing either as for your project or business as a whole, if you're doing that, or can be used for individual activities or programs as you develop them, to work out, is this one I want to work with now and it's viable to take forward now, or is this something to put on the shelf and leave for later? It's a really good, if your head's fizzing with ideas, this is a good one to use to kind of sift them out and work out what you're focusing on. It's simple, it's easy to use, and you will potentially stick this into a business plan or into certain investment or funding applications. Some funders do look to see if you've done this kind of thing. Moving swiftly on and coming back to what Morag was saying, a different kind of analysis tool and a different kind of problem solving and planning tool is a PESTLE analysis, or a PESTLE report if you're going to do it thoroughly. And what I would say is, when you're looking at potential risks and when you're looking at refining your ideas as to what's going to work, look at it through a series of lenses. There's research and policy work and competitors and other people who've done analysis and done research into the root causes of the social issue you're trying to address, and the impacts of the effects. And so there will already be a plethora of information out there. It's called desk-based research, basically. It's stuff you don't have to do yourself. And other people have been paid money or have been, given the time to do this stuff through their day jobs or through research programs or through whatever else, policy making channels. And you just have to go and look for it. And we can help you, Joe and I can help you find what's relevant for you on a one-to-one basis. It could be that it's the NHS reports, it could be that it's criminal justice policy reports, it could be that it's environmental sustainability reports, but they're all out there and there's oodles of it. It might be local authority reports. There's these things called joint needs analysis, which is to do with health and well-being. I mean, it's just endless. So putting the narrative around why what you're doing is important isn't hard. It's pinning down exactly what it is you're trying to do and what you want to say. So just on that point, it's important to, when you're problem solving and looking at this stuff, thinking about, what's the political context? Is politics and policy interested in what I'm doing? And there's a good chance that they are. You just might not have thought about it yet. Certainly anything to do with health and well-being, skills and employability, increasing, what's going on in the economy right now, environmental change, getting people back into work, supporting older people to live well for longer, a lot of these things that we've been talking about, helping people through COVID. You know, that there's a political angle on all of this, and so having a think about, you know, what your local authorities, what national government is saying and doing and reporting on that backs up what you're doing, all helps you think about where you might focus and what's priority right now, but also think about where the gaps are too. Social, again, is looking at sort of what's going on sort of socially. It ties in with local to some degree in terms of, you know, what are some of these sort of social challenges that affect, and that some of the social sort of risks that affect what it is you're trying to deliver and what you're trying to do. And often, whilst that might happen on a regional basis, often it's quite a local picture in terms of understanding what are the risks and opportunities socially and locally in terms of the services that you're trying to develop, or the activities that you're trying to do, and who else is being backed socially and locally to do that sort of thing. You know, doing a PESA like this can often churn up a bit more insight into who your competitors are or who your potential allies are. Often as a startup, you think, oh, you know, I've got to set up this new company to do this thing. But often, especially for those of you as well who are like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that, I want to do that, or those who are actually looking for work in this sector, then looking at what's going on socially and locally can really help churn up places that you can go and work for, or partner with. So sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And sometimes, I think it was Alice, actually, if she doesn't mind me mentioning, she put a comment in our Facebook group about having this great idea in this project, but she's not got the governance model, there's not got a constitution or a company set up yet to deliver the thing. How does she get it done? And so partnering with somebody socially and locally, if you understand the social and local context to kind of how you're operating, there'll be other agencies who you can approach and partner with, and we might know who a bundle of those are, to be able to test a project out or see what funding, or what are they trying to do. And you can partner with an organisation as be a supplier or a freelancer or deliver stuff for them, to save you having to go to the lengths of setting up your own social enterprise or something else, so that you can test things out, get paid to do it, and have some support. Actually, it's hard work doing this stuff on your own. So if you can find other groups or other charities and social enterprises to deliver things on behalf of, or in partnership with, you might just be saving their bacon. You know, often charities are sitting there, you know, with, and you know, you might laugh here because some people find it very hard to find the funding, and it is difficult, but trust me, there will be charities struggling to shift the cash that they've been thrown lately. And that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. And if you've not yet had the track record or the ability to draw this stuff down, then partnering with people who do have that resource right now could really help you and help them. And it's just navigating the landscape to figure that out. Having a look just on this pestle around this bottom line here, you know, we're looking at, you know, what are the, you know, what's the economic context right now in relation to what you're doing, and how is what you're doing fitting in with helping develop, you know, and what, you know, what risks are at play, you know, given the current climate, given higher unemployment, given, you know, money's going to get tighter, and given we've been going through austerity measures for a very long time, you know, how is that having an effect on what's going on, and how is what you're doing going to help in addressing some of that? Technologically, is always, people forget this, Mom. You know, you often look at risks. You might do a SWOT analysis and you look at all of this stuff, and that's great. But if you don't take a step back and look, you know, what are the technological risks for you as a company? And for some of you, or for some other social enterprise we work with, technology and tech and being in the tech industry, the tech for good world, is part of what they do, and they kind of have to look at this. But technologically, what are the risks and opportunities for you, and what's going on? So there's lots of, you know, charity digital stuff and tech for good stuff going on out there, and is any of that linking to your world? There are apps and there are tech, and there is other organizations looking at creating social issues, not creating them, well, they are some of them, looking at addressing social issues, and they go off with their apps and their tech, but they haven't necessarily got the links into the community that they need to really test this stuff well, or make this stuff relevant. And so thinking about, you know, what's going on technologically, are there other ventures that are working in the similar world to you that could be good allies, that you could help reach into communities with, or deliver technological options and online and digital options for your client groups and who you're working with, the kind of win-win scenarios. But on the flip side of that, how can technology make or break what you're doing? You know, what are some of the barriers and the challenges around tech? And you know, is that a problem? Are there risks, real risks there? If you can't access Wi-Fi, if you can't get the tech you need, if you know, there's some other issue at play, and how might you mitigate and get around some of that? And environmental, I mean, the social enterprises, in theory, you know, we're looking at the social impact, the economic impact, and the environmental impact, this triple bottom line, as they say. Lots of social enterprises do or don't tuck environmental in as one of their key priorities, either because it's not, they're that busy dealing with the community that the environment's not really come into play just yet, or it's at the heart of what they're doing, because, you know, it's the root cause, you know, it's the key challenge and the root causes that they're trying to address. But whether you are or aren't, you know, driven by climate change and environmental sustainability, understanding the risks and the, you know, landscape attached to what's going on in the current environmental situations, and how that doesn't interact with your business, is still important to consider and to look at. So as I say, it's called a PESTLE analysis. You might have heard that term, but you might not have known this is what it stands for. These different facets of or lenses that you can spin over your work or your business to think, you know, what are the wider contextual risks? What are the other routes to opportunities? Will looking at this affect, you know, the demand, or better understanding the demand for what I do? And another way to use this kind of tool, as much as you can look at it a bit like a SWOT analysis and write your bullet points as to kind of what you know or what you found out is important in relation to your business in some of these areas. Coming back to what Morag was saying before, there's doing the analysis, which is kind of bullet points, thinking things through, but putting together a PESTLE report as you evolve, or as you're looking for funding, becomes quite important, because PESTLE reports are the meat in the sandwich when it comes to writing good funding bids. So Joe and I spend a lot of our time writing PESTLE reports for charities and social enterprises. They haven't got the time to go and find all this stuff out, and quite frankly, they often don't know where to look. So by having somebody do a PESTLE report for you, it can pull out all of the local, social, national, global stats on what's relevant for you, and you've then got that at your disposal to be able to then cut and paste at will, or per audience, into bids and reports and marketing and any other kind of pitching that you're trying to do to strengthen the case for what you're doing. So we can talk to people on a one-to-one basis about this. I won't labour over it too much more, but it's a useful additional tool for some of you, sticking with, you know, looking at what the problems are you're trying to address, doing some basic analysis on the strengths and weaknesses of your ideas, and putting a plan in place to take those forward might be as much as you need to do right now. But for those of you who've been running a social venture for a little while, getting your PESTLE information in order is what will strengthen your case for where you're trying to go, and how to convince funders and investors, or how to better market what you're doing, to show the need and how your solutions are addressing certain challenges. We're nearly at lunch. I've got one more tool to throw at you before we break, and it kind of feeds in, it gets you ready and warmed up for Joe's session shortly. So it's just starting to think about the wider picture. So we've looked at the problems and what the root causes and what some of your solutions might be, and we've had to think about how to kind of analyze and prioritize these things. But ultimately, you know, how do you prioritize your time and focus, you know, with all of these different people and places and things to consider? And something Joe's looking at in depth this afternoon starts to look at this. And ultimately, half the battle in finding people to sell to, or finding out who your customers are or who your beneficiaries are, and whether they're the same thing, and finding out who's going to help you, or who's going to partner with you, or who's going to refer people, who's going to work with you, who could you be a supplier to, you know, all forms part of this picture. So this is just a little reminder that when you're thinking about your ideas or your business and who you could be working with or benefiting, have you left, as I say, left no stone unturned? And often social enterprises tend to be working with all of this stuff. You know, they are they're working with the voluntary community sector, they're working with the private sector, they're working with the public sector, and they're potentially also promoting and reaching out to the general public. And whilst you haven't got all the hours in the day to go knocking on all of these doors, they're avenues for you. They're avenues for referrals, they're avenues for partnering with, they're avenues to find people and supporters and champions for what you're doing, let alone funding or anything else. So it's just, you'll get these slides and you'll be able to think about this at your leisure. And what I would suggest is, so you don't get in a muddle, or so that you can try and sift through your stakeholders. There's this thing called stakeholder mapping, and you think, what the hell is that? But a stakeholder is somebody who's got a vested interest in making sure that your business succeeds. You know, it could be it could be individuals from any one of these. It could be people who are benefiting from your service. You know, and again, we're going to come back to all of this in other sessions, but it's just sowing a seed there that, you know, whilst you're thinking about the bigger picture and how you're trying to solve problems, who's got a role to play in this? Who's already doing something? Who's already got budget or interest in what you're doing? And how are you going to approach them? And so what I tend to suggest to help you not get lost in the soup of all of these people and places and budgets and potential saboteurs or partners is think about this. Think about, you know, if you map out your black book, and this is the same when you're looking for jobs, actually, to a point, for those of you that are looking for work as opposed to running businesses, you know, who've been your champions and your allies over the years? Who do you know? Who's already interested in what you're doing? Who's already accessing what you're doing? Or who have you not had time to revisit, cold call, or find out about yet? And when you're mapping these, and it doesn't take long, 3 circles on a bit of paper, and you just start throwing down contacts or throwing down people who might have an interest or throwing down agencies. But what I would say is, where possible, don't just put age concern, the council, I don't know, Salford CVS or Wigan Together, what's it called? I can't remember now. And so you can, if you can put a name to it, you can follow up. You know, you'd have to go, you know, so start with who you know and what you know and where you're at, and then you'll soon spot the gaps, or we can help you spot the gaps. And what I would say is, you try and summarize your contacts and who you know in terms, I would say, to help you sift out where you're best prioritizing your time and effort. Who's got money and resources, who's got power and influence, and who's got a need for what you do. So when you're thinking about, you know, other agencies, when you're thinking about community centres, when you're thinking about you know, colleges and schools, when you're thinking about universities, housing associations, thinking about things at a local, regional and national level, if that's relevant for you, think about where they sit in this puzzle. You know, have they got money and resources? Have they, you know, are they looking for people to partner with? Can they deliver stuff? Have they got a budget? You know, as a funder, as an organisation that might be procuring or buying in support and services. So where do they sit in that camp? Have they got any form of power and influence? And by that we mean marketing and media power and influence, political power and influence, strategic leadership power and influence, or power and influence in that sector. And I mean, power and influence doesn't have to be you're the chief of the NHS, or you're the chief exec of this, that and the other, or you're a local MP, or you're sitting on some ministerial group somewhere. Power and influence can be, you know, a parent or a carer or an employee of yours who's got, you know, either some sort of links and connections, or, you know, who's a really good advocate, and they command power and influence because they've either got charisma, they've got a good story to tell, or a convincing and clear, potentially harrowing in some cases, story to tell, and they're a good advocate and ambassador for what you do. So in my world, power and influence isn't because you're the top dog at the top of the food chain. It's because you've got communication skills, charisma, or you've got access and reach into and trust potentially in your community. So don't be fooled by that bit. And then in terms of need, this comes back to who's got a need for this thing, who wants it. And usually you'll find your beneficiaries are all sitting in the need box, and some of your potential funders or people who are paying for this stuff, or people who've got an interest in the stuff, will sit a bit further back. They might not have a need for it, and you've got to convince them of that need. I'd just say, just use this tool to kind of map out who you're currently working with, and what you'll find, or who you're approaching, or who you need to approach. And you need to be spending your time in this middle bubble as much as possible, this triangle, or nearer the middle of this diagram, because if you spend all your time with people who need your stuff, but with people who've got no cash to pay for it, that you'll come a cropper. Whereas if you spend your time with people who've got money and resources for this stuff, or at least you carve out time to spend with people in the other brackets, you'll see a shift in the way things start to come together. So I just sow that seed there, and to kind of show kind of why bother and why this makes sense, and then we'll break for a good half an hour lunch. I'll just tell a bit of a story on, why is this important? Why bother is always the reason. So some of the benefits of untangling all of this, it helps with lots of things, but often people are trying to sell a thingamawhatsit to what's a name, and they've not really articulated what it is they're selling, or what it is they're doing, or what the service is the project does, and they're not quite sure who's paying for it, or they've not got the name, the number and the bank details for what's the name. And so the more that you can clarify exactly the direction of travel, the better, really. People get in a tangle because they're not sure where the money's coming from. They're not sure who are the benefits to people directly or indirectly. And often, I showed you that diagram with all of these different people and places. If I just go back there, on here, any social enterprise is usually working across a few sectors, or charity or anything else. Or even if you're looking for work in these spaces, you're looking across different areas, and language is everything. Every one of these people and places in this little sphere here, they all use a slightly different set of buzzwords, a slightly different language. And if you don't focus in on who it is you're working with and how they like to be talked to, you can be talking to a brick wall. And you find out how they talk and what they do by reading their documents and reading their policy reports that link to them, and things like that, to work out, does the language have to shift at all? Have they got any clue what you're talking about? People can get bogged down in the cause, as opposed to the financial aspects of running their business, and not everybody's clear, and it is a bit of an art sometimes in measuring and evaluating impact. And I would say, in order to, why you need to understand who's who, it just helps you work out where the money can come from. It really helps you figure out whose need are you meeting here. You can think you've got this amazing service, and you can storm in and say, I run this and I do these great things. But if you're talking to an audience that doesn't need that, then again, you're talking to a brick wall. So I'd never go in on the sales spiel and say, we do this and we run that and blah, blah, blah. Really take the time to build relationships and listen to people, and particularly with agencies and organizations who you think you might want to partner with, work with, or try and tap up to be a customer or to get some money out of. You've really got to either listen to what they need or read their strategic documents, their policy reports, their plans. So you've already got the insight in what they're doing. So that, if they're needing, if their key priorities are to reduce social isolation, help older people, and, create this, that, and the other, then what kind of angle to go in on. If they want to do that by taking people out on walks, or cleaning their houses, or supporting carers to, get respite, that's one that's one angle, but they might actually not be interested in any of that, and there might be more, their priorities right now might be around, you know, building their digital skills, getting them access to digital tech, and you know, looking at, you know, other things. So forewarned is forearmed, really, to you know, when you go and understand who these people are, to make sure that you're meeting their need, you can communicate with them in a language they understand, and you know, it will just help you build sustainable change, and build trusted relationships in a more coherent way, but also hopefully build your sustainability as a result. I don't want to eat into too much. I have got like a wrap up tail here, but I think I've probably spoken for long enough. I just wanted, rather than me kind of prattle on through what I was going to say, I'll leave that slide up. It was what can happen when this works. You know, I set up a health and wellbeing program years ago, and I hadn't got a clue. I'm not a health and wellbeing specialist. I'm a business developer, but because I know how to do stakeholder engagement work, we walked into this place that hadn't been doing much at all for quite a long time, and we did our stakeholder mapping, and we worked out who we knew and who we needed to know, and we went talking to them. And, you know, the disadvantaged women were my group in the need box. They hadn't got the money to pay for what we wanted to do, but they had a need for it. And some of them were very vocal, and some of them were great advocates and champions. And so ultimately had levels of power and influence, even though they'd not got the cash to pay for it. And as we went talking to various other groups in our map and our world, you know, and these all need a different language. A women's hospital needs a different language when you talk to them, to the local college, and the local carers group needs a totally different approach, you know, to going to talk to, you know, some of these other groups. And we had to find a way to be understood, to articulate what it was we were trying to do, to pull the thing together. And the thing we pulled together was a health and wellbeing programme. And ultimately that was paid for by, so the women's hospital were, you know, good at influencing and helped, you know, having their backing and having them endorse what we were doing meant that the local college and the local carers groups referred people forward to pay for our services, and as did the GPs refer people through, so that we found and we got to the women we wanted to work with, and a combination of college people paying for colleges paying for us to deliver a course, the carers paying for and referring people forward, meant that we could get started. And what I would say is, with funding, even if you can't get these people to pay for this thing right now, or convince them they want to commission and contract you to run it, you know, 15 women as bums on seats, sounds awful, I don't mean that bad, but, you know, 15 women in a room who are going to benefit from your program are highly valuable, because once you've run that track record and you've delivered that once, you can then go to the local college, or you can go to the carers agencies or the GPs who are looking at social prescribing options and say, look, we know that we can run this with 15 people because we've done it before. We know how to find them. We know how to get to them. You can refer these people to us as well. We just need the resources to do it again, because look at the results that we delivered last time. So that's my kind of potted nutshell sort of version as to why it's important to understand these layers, understand what your client group or your beneficiaries are going to need, and work with a range of partners to pull it all together. So that's my, in a nutshell, route forward for you know, understanding some of these groups, understanding, you know, what are the solutions you're trying to address. We looked at all sorts before we designed the programme, worked out what would work, looked to some degree, you know, at the current climate and the landscape. I mean, God, when we tried to run this programme, the PCTs were just about to disband. Nobody wanted to give anyone any money. And, you know, so it wasn't a straightforward route to getting it to work, but we did, and it got amazing results. So I suppose we just throw it out there as a way of working, a way of processing, you know, how to prioritise what you're doing, and things to consider, you know, as you're getting started. We're 1:45, so we're going to take a good 20 to 30 minute break, but I just wanted to see if anybody's got any questions, and feel free, if you've had your fill and you just want to get your sandwich and your cup of tea, that's fine. But I'm going to take us off record, and then I'm happy to take any questions for a few minutes before we break, just so that people can pick up. So great, we've joined back. Do you want me to screen share, or are you best? You're probably best to do that yourself.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Brilliant. Great. So welcome back. As I say, by all means, pop a comment or some feedback or a word or two in the chat on what you've made of this morning. Anything that's been useful, anything that you'd like to see more of, or anything that could have been improved, either privately or to everyone's fine. And then we'll hand over to Jo.
Thank you, Nicola. Can everybody see the screen? You can see it? Great. Hopefully you had a nice break and you've had a good morning. This afternoon's session is just building upon some of the stuff that Nicola touched upon. And I think she mentioned a number of times around how it's really important to understand your customer, or the person or people that are going to access your service. So this afternoon we're going to explore how we can really get to know who our customers are, or are those people that potentially could access what we're trying to deliver. So anybody on the call had any bad customer service? Anyone been able to try?
Sorry, say that again. What?
Anybody on this call had any bad customer service? Or have tried to access something and found it difficult? Anyone want to share that?
HMRC?
Yeah, great, Maura. And what was that experience?
HMRC are terrible.
Go on.
Sorry?
How did they make you feel?
Well, first of all, you get on and it's like, right, for instance, I phoned the employer helpline. So to me, I'm getting through to the employer helpline. So you get on and it's like, number one, do this, number two, do, you know, the usual. So you press a button, then you get another, I think there's about three times. And then it turned out they'd sent me to the wrong place because I had chosen a wrong option.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, once I got on to the person and I kind of said, they kind of said, oh, sorry, that's not us, I'll put you through. But then, of course, I was back into the options again, which is a little bit further down. So I had to rethink about how to say things.
Yeah, so it's frustrating, a waste of time. And that's the thing with services, is that they don't tend to put people at the heart of them. And very often services are designed very much to be efficient for the people that are delivering the service and not really considerate of the people trying to access them. And I think as social entrepreneurs, we recognise that in all walks of life, because generally we've got lived experience of the things we're trying to tackle. And so we may have gone through a system or a service and it's been incredibly frustrating and we've not felt valued. So really, you know, as we approach our businesses and our ideas around social enterprise, we really need to be looking at how we put people at the centre, so we don't make the same mistakes as other people in different sectors, like the private sector or the public sector. So person-centered design, there's other phrases for this like human-centered design, but basically it's just putting the people at the heart of the service, not creating a service and expecting people to work around it, but actually putting people at the heart of that. And that is really, you know, what we should all aspire to be doing. And some of you are already doing this, I'm sure, because you've got lived experience. So you'll be thinking, how did I feel? What was that? You know, how can I make things different from the people I'm going to work with? How can I make that change? So, you know, you really have to put yourself in the shoes of that person. But also, I guess, the added thing is that we might have lived experience of something, but our circumstances and the way in which we live are quite different from another person that's experienced our issue or challenge. You know, we're all very different people, aren't we? We all do things in a different way. We've got different ways of feeling comfortable, different things that challenge us, different tolerance levels, different, you know, different ways in which we handle stress and anxiety. And so, you know, really it's whilst we might think we're doing the right thing and creating a service that really does put people at the heart of it, we might be missing out on some nuances for other people that perhaps we haven't picked up on. You know, my experience as a woman is very different to you know, somebody that's a woman that's got a disability. I'm quite an able-bodied person. So, you know, we're all experiencing very different things. So what we want to do as social entrepreneurs is be as inclusive and diverse as possible when we're engaging with people. And sometimes just very simple things can put certain parts of the demographic or the community off. So what we need to do is really kind of understand who it is we're trying to reach, and really appreciate and empathise with kind of where they're coming from. So we're going to explore that this afternoon, if that's okay. Are there any questions so far? No? Great. If there is any questions, then do feel free just to unmute yourself. Just ask as we go along. It's informal, this. It's whilst I've got some slides up, I really do encourage you just to ask as we go. So that's what I'm discussing here, and this is a bit of a fancy diagram, but I think it's an important one. It does really kind of capture what I've just talked about, and that first point of this process is about empathizing with the person that you're going to be engaging with, and sort of what is that person's issue or problem, and trying to define the challenge that they're grappling with. And then we need to understand why is it important to them. So, you know, look at it from their point of view, their perspective, and then come up with some ideas of how to solve that. And it's a really good idea to create ideas with those people that potentially you're going to be working with or engaging with, because you'll get some really good insights in that. If I was to sit in a room and kind of work out how to engage with social entrepreneurs, I might have a very you know, kind of set way in which I think that's the way to do it. But if what we've done in Flourish is we've got to know over time how people want to engage. We've got to know people. We've got to understand what stops people from engaging with other business or enterprise support programs, and we've learned from that, and, you know, developed and grown the program to be more inclusive. And we can see that now in the types of people that we engage with, that we're getting a very diverse and very you know, mixed group of people. We're not just looking at sort of, when I look at the screen, I'm not just looking at a flashback of myself, you know, we're actually engaging with a wider and more diverse group of people, and that's really what we really what our ambition was at the beginning. So I'm just going to actually do a quick 5-minute exercise, and I want you to write down in whatever you want, in whatever format, whether that's just words or some pictures, about how you went about your morning routine this morning. So first thing for me was, if my son didn't wake me up, which he didn't this morning, the alarm went off and I groaned and I pressed snooze. I am not a morning person. I'd like to just lie there all morning, to be honest, but, you know, I have things to do, and I've got a 5-year-old that's very lively. So I had to get up. I got up and had a shower. Now, we've had some problems with our boiler this week, and so it was a cold shower. So that was a bit of a pain point for me. No one likes a cold shower. And then, whether it's right or not, I do have a quick check on my emails, because my son was having his breakfast and I check my emails, see if there's anything that's popped up during the night that I need to be aware of, because that gives me a sense of calm around the day. I think if I know what's coming later on, I can start to think about that while I have my coffee. But I went to have a coffee, and I do like a little drop of milk in mine, and we had some full fat milk but not any semi-skimmed, and I prefer semi-skimmed, so that wasn't a great start. And then I went on to get ready, brush my teeth, blah de blah, take my son to school. So I just want you to map out your morning routine for 5 minutes, and then once you've mapped out your morning routine, your general morning routine, just kind of put in the like I've done there in terms of the arrows, any bits of that routine that you felt some pain points, that there was some frustration or a bit of annoyance during that process. Is that okay, everyone? I'll give you 5 minutes. Okay, that was just my alarm that went off. I hope you've all had a chance to go through your morning routine. Anyone willing to share? If willing to put it up to the camera and talk through what the morning routine looks like? Anyone brave enough to do that?
Yeah, I'm back.
Hello.
Can you see it? There's mine.
Hang on a minute. We just got.
Somebody else talking then.
Sorry.
Come on. Sorry, your name isn't up there. Sorry, and I don't think I've met you yet. Hi.
Who are you talking to, Jo?
The lady in the top left-hand corner of my screen. I can't see a name on her.
What does she look like?
She's got a green top on.
Oh, Shireen.
There you are. Yeah, Shireen. Lovely. Yeah, Shireen, do you want to talk us through your morning routine?
Yeah, I hit snooze several times because I don't like waking up in the morning. This is supposed to be dental floss.
Very good. You floss. That's good.
I find it tedious because I hit snooze so many times. There's no time for me to have a bath, so I just had to have a quick wash. I've got visitors coming, so I had to do a quick clean round, which I found irritating. And then I missed my breakfast, so I was hungry, and I knew I wouldn't be able to concentrate on the food.
Right. Sounds like a bit of a rough morning, that. So yeah, you didn't get what you needed there, did you?
No, I didn't.
The hierarchy of needs were not met. But no, great. Thanks for sharing. Who wants to share their morning routine? Morag, did you have yours?
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to fit on the screen.
Okay, we'll just flash it up and then you can talk us through it.
Oh God, find the thingy. I'll show you and then I'll talk you through it because I don't. Right. So basically, alarm went off. I'm not a morning person either. It's really difficult to get my eyes open, but hey ho. So I get up and I went to the toilet, got all washed, etc. Came back to my bedroom to get dressed. Cat sitting on the bed, rolling on the clothes. Woo! Right. Okay. So have to brush my clothes down, get rid of the hair. Then I go downstairs, put the kettle on, and one of the cats goes out. I've got 3, by the way. I've got 3. So one of the cats decides to go out. So boiled the kettle, got my cereal, my cup of tea. No issues with that. Except that I then sit down, have my breakfast, go to my computer, and I've got a cat messing about with the computer. So kind of like shoo it out. There's the back door was found again. Come back to the computer, forgot that I hadn't brushed my hair, rushed upstairs, came back down, knew that I was like coming to this eventually. So yeah, I mean, I kind of looked at my emails, did bits and pieces, ended up here, which is why I had to brush my hair. And that's it.
Great. So anybody else? Just one more before we move on. Anyone else brave enough to talk us through their mornings?
It's Mickey. I'll share mine with you. I can't see myself, so I don't know if you'll be able to see.
I could see that. I think it's probably not going to work as we're actually seeing the detail of that, but what if you could talk us through it, that'd be ace. Thank you.
So typical wake up. I actually switched off my alarm. I forgot to put that on. I switched off my alarm, so I woke up about 10 minutes later than usual. So there's that, shower, coffee, and then school runs, which was my pain this morning because my daughter was late. I don't normally drop her off. So I'm officially the best mom of the year because I dropped her off this morning. And then sorted on my way back. So I come through my kitchen, which was a mess. So I had to sort that out. That another pain point because it normally gets sorted the night before. Did my teeth because understandably I had to rush my daughter, so didn't do my teeth. And then had to put the iPad on the charger for this meeting because one of my children had used their own iPad and not charged it for my benefit. So that was another pain point for me. And then joined the meeting and turned my camera off so I could have breakfast.
Oh dear. Okay, great. Well, thank you. We all had hectic mornings. It's good to hear I'm not the only person that's not a morning person as well. Thank you for that. I think the purpose of that was just to demonstrate how you know, we have different pain points in our life dependent on our living circumstances and our routines and our day-to-day. And I think it's when we start thinking about those that we want to engage in our services or what we're looking to offer is being mindful of that, really. And this is quite a good exercise as well to use if you were to do a focus group with some of the people that you're potentially going to be working with or seeking to work with, just to kind of get a sense of what type of people and kind of what are the things that kind of get in the way, what are the barriers to progressing, or you know, have they got support? Is it just them? Are they have they got access to digital means of communicating? Have they, you know, what type of person are they? There's no point putting on a 8:30 Zoom meeting or workshop if largely we're quite busy in the morning at that time. So, you know, I think it's just a really good exercise just to kind of get to know people as well. If you were to do a focus group, it's quite a nice icebreaker as well. So it's just a bit of a tool I thought I'd just run through with you that you may want to use in your own kind of practice. Well, this gets us to the point of really trying to get underneath the skin of who it is we're trying to support. So the next exercise really is to look at creating a bit of a persona, a kind of trying to get an accurate picture of the types of customers that you're looking to engage. And I think, you know, we can kind of get a bit hung up on this and think that, oh, we haven't got enough time, or we haven't got enough money to kind of do in-depth interviews or look through complex data sets around types of people. But you can find out a lot about people on very little. Just by asking those that you're potentially working with at the moment. So say like through the work around engaging people in health and wellbeing activities, you could, you know, work with the existing customers that you've got, or look to find out why you're not engaging a particular group by asking 3 very simple questions. So getting a sense of who people are, you know, what makes them tick, what motivates them, what is their kind of ambition, what is it they want to make better in their lives, and what are the main barriers to achieving that. So I use a persona template, and I try and do this quite often around just trying to think about who are the people we're trying to engage in our programs and what might the barriers be to engage in. And it's really good just to complete this template with using a kind of semi-fictional character based on your current or ideal customer, and just kind of work through some of, you know, who are they, what frustrates them, what motivates them. And this is what I'd ask you to look at now. So think about the people that maybe you've already worked with, or the people that you're looking to engage in your particular service, and just try and dream up that person. Who are they? Kind of what age are you looking at? It might be that you're looking to support people from a quite a large age range, but try and pin that down to, you know, what's the average age of the person that's going to be coming to your service or accessing your service? What relationships have they got in their lives? Do they tend to be married? Do they tend to be single? Are they older, potentially widowed? What's the living situation? Some of them might be quite specific, because it could be that they're living in temporary accommodation. Some of it is that they've generally homeowners, or they're not. They might be in rented accommodation or social housing. What might their occupation be? Do you think they're more likely to be unemployed? Are they going to be in work? What interests and hobbies does that person, that potential customer, have? or do you think they might have? Obviously, it's not going to be exact, but just try and get into the kind of head space of this person that you're trying to reach. Are they likely to have digital access? You know, are they of an age where they are going to be, you know, in the position to access your service via Zoom? You know, and where do they visit regularly? Where do they go that you could, you know, you could then work with a particular agency in order to reach them? So do they regularly go to the GP? Do they regularly go for a haircut? Do they regularly visit school to drop off the kids? You know, what are all these places where the touch points that your ideal customer may visit? And then try to get in the head around, you know, what motivates them, what might frustrate them, and any additional notes that you might want to do. So I'm going to leave you to do that for 5 minutes, just to think about some of your either existing customers that you can base this on, or some potential customers, and then I'll go through a worked up example that I've done relating to a particular service, and then we'll talk through that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Any questions, just pop it in the chat. Okay. Okay, my alarm's gone off. So I hope you managed to, hope it's given you enough time to think. Obviously, you know, I've only given you 5 minutes. You'd hopefully you'll spend more time on this, on reflection and after this session, but it was just to give you a sense of just to start making you think about a bit more around who the people are that you're working with. Because the importance of this is around, okay, how do I explain to a funder the demographic of those people that I'm meeting the need for, and also for marketing purposes. And I'm sure Vicky will agree that it's really good to get an idea of how you can reach people with your service offer. So, you know, if we've got somebody there that hasn't got digital access, what are the other ways in which we can reach that potential beneficiary of our service? So I'm just going to take you on to, and I'll give you an opportunity to talk through some of your personas in a minute around your service, but I'm just going to talk through one that I came up with for a service that I was developing called Local Cooks, which was in my local area, and this was about connecting up older people with home cooked meals. And so I went through this, and this was the persona that I came up with, and this was a lady called Joan, I named her, a very headstrong 75-year-old whose health and well-being was suffering from living alone and not feeling confident to leave the house independently. I was quite keen to set up some opportunities for people to eat a meal together in a social setting. So Joan will be my perfect kind of customer to that. I kind of put her around age 75, put her down as a widow, that she was living alone, because I looked around in my area and there's quite a lot of social housing and flats for elderly people and extra care homes in my area. That she would potentially be retired at 75, that she would like things like reading magazines, crosswords and watching the TV, that she wouldn't have access to a PC as such, or a laptop, but she would have a TV in her home and a smartphone that her children had purchased for her and give her a little bit of training on. And that she would regularly visit the GP. She would go and have her eyes tested quite regularly, and she had some hospital appointments. Now, when I think about Joan as being one of the kind of customers that I want to reach, that kind of gives me with a lot of opportunity to think about how I would reach her. So one of the ideas was around sending a poster out to all the GP practices in my local area about the service, about Local Cooks, so they could put them up on their display pin boards, that it wouldn't be, whilst I could do some advertising of the service on social media, on Facebook, the messages would probably be more not directed at Joan, because she might not have sight of them, but would be directed at her children, potentially saying that, you know, have you got a parent who is living alone in this area who would really welcome a kind of social event around, you know, eating at the luncheon club once a week. Also recognising that, you know, potentially she does live on her own and she doesn't really want to leave the house independently. So expecting Joan to rock up to a weekly luncheon club might not work. So could there be another element to the service which includes a bit of a buddying system? So if people get referred into the service, they're then kind of, someone gives them a friendly call, and then somebody goes and collects them from home and brings them along to that. So that was a kind of, it just helped me kind of really understand a bit more around some of the barriers potentially to Joan accessing the service, because very often you can sit there and think, oh, this would be really good for this person and this will really change their lives, but you know, you put something on and people don't turn up, or you don't get the right person. So this is a really I found a really valuable way of kind of getting under the skin of some of the barriers that might, and this is kind of a bit more of a kind of evolved version of persona setting. You know, it could just be simply, who are they, what's the main goal, and what's stopping them. So has anyone got any comments on your personas? Did you discover anything about your potential customers that potentially you hadn't thought about before, or something new, or did it make you think differently? Is anyone willing to give some feedback?
Hi.
Hi.
Hiya. I think mine, I base mine on somebody I know and
Yeah.
I've worked with. And one of the things it came up with for me is where it's the visits regularly, is I've got Job Centre, GP, a drug service and the Life Centre in Wigan. And I think that's going to be really common amongst the cohort that I'm aiming the service at.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have thought of, especially the GP for some reason, that most people I work with have regular prescriptions that they have to go to the GP for.
Yeah.
So that would be an absolutely perfect place to engage as a stakeholder, going back to this morning's session.
Yeah, right. Oh, good. So yeah, that's it. It just throws up different scenarios, doesn't it? If you can put different scenarios in there into that formula, it can throw up different things. Obviously, you know, for a youth-related service, that'll throw up a whole heap of different ways to engage. But it's really being clear as to who your kind of target customers. There will be nuances between customers. You know, some of, you know, we can't stereotype, and I think, you know, there are going to be exceptions to the rule. But I think it does give you a little sense of things that you maybe need to consider. Anybody else willing to share?
Yeah, can I share?
Yes, please.
I think I had a bit of an epiphany this morning when we were looking at the tree and the root causes of problems and why maybe people have trouble with social media and marketing via social media. And I said it's probably because if you're over the age of about 40 at the moment, you've probably not had that much technical instruction in your life, like certainly not at school anyway, and social media wasn't even in existence, was it, until, you know, widespread until like the 2000s. So I think a lot of my clients and people that I've worked with are sort of in the 40s and 50s, so they've got a business, they're running the business really well and they're busy with it. But they want to reach more people and they don't know how to access that. So I think the age thing's been quite a bit of an epiphany for me today.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think you're right. I think there will be exceptions to that. There'll be people that are really good at social media and that group and that are really on it. I'm one that isn't great at it, and I really have no interest in it, to be honest. I'm not really.
Not me then, AJ.
Exactly. So that's where, you know, you can play to other people's strengths, like Nicola. Nicola just nails it. So yeah, it's that, and it's testing some of this, you know. So, you know, you might come up with some personas, but actually testing it with real live people if you can.
Can I make an observation as well, if I may? And it might be something that you're coming on to, I'm not sure, but you just said test this, like you say, with different personas, and there's a good chance that within anyone's business you might have 2 or 3 different, you know, or 5 or 10 different personas, you know, picking out more than one and really thinking around who they are, what they're like, and how you're going to reach them. And the stories that we've heard so far have been really good examples of that. I would definitely take the time as well to have a think about the different kinds of stakeholders, because when we were talking about customers before, Joan might not have the money to pay for this service, but Suzanne in the local authority might, or, you know, Bob in the big lottery might. So, you know, take a step into a different persona where you can and think about who are these characters. You might not need to know that Bob plays golf at the weekend, but you might to go nobble him down the golf course. I don't know. But, you know, again, what media devices, where are they visiting regularly? What conferences are they at? What are they zooming into? What boards and forums are they sitting on?
Yeah.
This all plays part
part
of it.
That's it, Nicola, and I think this Joan is very much a kind of user of my service. But if I was to put in there my local authority commissioner, well, their motivations will be that their frustrations might be that the hospitals are full of people who have had falls because they're lonely and isolated, and they fall more regularly, and then they end up in hospital. Then they take up beds, and then there's this whole rehabilitation thing, and it costs the NHS a number of pounds. So, you know, the motivations for them, as one of my customers, would be that they want to reduce costs on the NHS and the burden on the NHS, and they want to reduce falls. So they do want to work with me because I'm offering a service that helps people live more independently and connects them up with others. So yeah, absolutely, and we'll touch more on that in the business social business canvas in the next session. In, I think, what date's the next session? Beginning of December.
Yeah, I'll get that ready.
And we'll really explore that, the differences between our customers, as in those that pay for what we do, and our beneficiaries that might not be able to pay for what we do, although feel a massive benefit from what we do, if that makes sense.
Joe, I might be jumping the gun a bit. It might be more into this next time, but I was wondering, you know, with GP practices, rather than having that as a source of advertisement, you know, for people to see it and then access it themselves, but getting into, like, before they lose the confidence and this some of the skills or whatever, having it as a preventative referral method for GP. So like when people are going for the, say, over 50s health checkup,
yeah,
there's also that element of the social thing, and that they can say, maybe signpost to one a service that's been set up to then get people engaged before they deteriorate.
Yeah, of course, and I think that's it. I think we might run a service or something that we do as a social entrepreneur that does two things, that does preventative work and deals with people that are already kind of struggling. So our approach will be quite different, wouldn't it? Our offer would be different to those different groups, and it could be that, yeah, the GP is one, or there might be a referral route elsewhere that that picks up people that are on the cusp of falling into crisis, for example. So it could be that, you know, somebody that turns up to the food bank for the first time is potentially struggling, and we kind of work with them then to get them in touch with, like, the credit union or whoever is the right appropriate agency to work with them to stop them getting into further financial crisis. So yeah, this is it. You've really got to understand what your service is. Are you going down the preventative route, because that there'll be a different place to find those people, or are you going down the kind of crisis route, or are you doing both? So yeah, absolutely, Jenny. There's different approaches for different things. Any more questions or like observations on that? Was that helpful, or did that confuse people? Can't see some people's faces, so I'm not sure. So yeah, that's a bit about Jones. So what we've done there is, you know, basically it's our responsibility to just make sure that we can make people's journeys easier. And this is a good way of mapping somebody's journey as well. This is another way of approaching it. So you've got the persona of somebody. So, you know, we've got Joan, who lives alone and widowed, doesn't have access to a computer but has a smartphone, so potentially could get on Facebook or whatever. And then we're trying to get her from out of her home into something that's kind of helpful to her and meaningful to her. So a good way of doing that is sometimes just mapping what their journey might be and identifying the pain points and then addressing the pain points. So that's one way of doing it. I've sometimes done it on a wall where you've got a big flip chart, and if we were in a physical setting, we'd probably do this together. And then you've kind of got the smiley face at the top, the kind of medium, and then a kind of sad face, and then looking at which parts of the journey are a problem for your customer and what can you do to kind of support them along that journey. So in terms of next, I think if you could, you know, give it a go in your own time and relate it to your own ideas and scenarios, and then just think about, does it make you think differently about how you design your service? Like you said, Vicky, it's made you kind of really tune into kind of what age bracket of person you're trying to engage with, and then there'll be appropriate ways of reaching that age group and inappropriate ways of reaching that age group. And then, you know, how does it change the way you think about your customer service users and beneficiaries? And that's the point that Nicola brought up. So yeah, your customers, you might reach them in a very different way. So if I'm running local cooks and it's looking to connect older people with hot meals, my customer might be the local authority who would pay for me to run that service. I wouldn't contact Stockport Council or whichever council on Facebook, but I might be tempted to connect with them on LinkedIn, or I might be tempted to find a way of, you know, like we mentioned before, there might be some community connectors that work within the council that I could kind of befriend or get in touch with, and then work through my networks there. Engaging with your service users, you know, we talk about as social entrepreneurs very often about reaching the unreachable, that those people that local authorities just don't have the trust or the relationship with, but we as community leaders and people on the ground have, and that can be done through things like local Facebook groups and social media if they're of an age that they're using that, and then your beneficiaries. So it's a case of just testing your service design with people. I think we sometimes don't reflect back up with people around, you know, is this working for you? You know, you just need to get some feedback and iterate what you do. And really that's, you know, human-centered design can get very complicated and complex, but this is a kind of, you know, ABC version of it. And I think it's just not being afraid of asking for feedback. I got some feedback this morning off somebody. I thought I'd done a really good recruitment process for a post that I was doing. I thought I had it nailed, and I got some feedback from somebody that potentially there were some things I could improve upon. And I saw that as a bit of a gift, to be honest. It gave me an opportunity to learn and change things for the better. I'm not afraid of feedback. I think it's a really important thing, and if you can treat it as a gift and do with it what you want, I think it'll make sure that your service doesn't become another service that excludes people. I think that's the main point. We need to bring people with us. So is there any questions at all? No? Does everybody know who their customers are at the moment, or potential customers? Are you getting a feel for who and what they are?
Joe, can I just ask if you'll stop the screen share for a minute, and I will just see if I can do what I need to do. It won't let me in there. I don't, it's because I'm recording. Oh, there we go. I can see what I need now. Brilliant. There we go. Carry on as you are. Sorry.
All right. Who was about to talk then? I think somebody was. Yeah.
I knew exactly who my ideal customer was when I first started out. So basically, obviously, originally I wanted to go to charities, small organisations, etc. So I was reaching out on social media to those small businesses, etc. However, as time went on, one of the things I realised was that, for instance, one of the groups that I've now kind of involved more in my targeting, shall we say, is like mums with small businesses, because there's a lot out there, and they're kind of very much my ideal customer, because they're very much I want to provide this service. I'm not wanting really to be doing, you know, disturbed by all the other stuff that comes along with it, which is really where I come in. So it's quite interesting to do this kind of thing potentially. I wouldn't necessarily say regularly, but it's useful to do every now and again, to have a think about, well, what's changed and have I noticed other stuff, etc. So that's kind of where I've started going.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful, Morag. Thank you. And yeah, I think you're right. I think that it is a journey, and sometimes your customer or beneficiary group can change, or the needs of that group changes. So, you know, Flourish was doing in person, you know, physical in spaces enterprise stuff, and then we've had to, you know, move on to online now. We had to make sure that those people that we were working with on different programs could still access us online, and had the resources to do that and the means to do that. And if, you know, otherwise we were at risk of excluding people, or people not coming on the journey with us. So, you know, you have to adapt to different situations and circumstances, and the tools that Nicola took you through around, you know, what's happening in the political environment, and, you know, the pestle and the SWAT are quite helpful ones, just to, if you feel like, oh, people aren't showing up to this, or I'm not getting the customers I used to get, has something changed, you know, and it's really helpful maybe just to go through that and a couple of those tools, just to reflect back and see if there's anything that you've missed, or anything that's changed, and that you can adapt your service to accommodate. So yeah, absolutely. It's not a, you know, we don't do these things once and then expect it just to continue. It's very much work in progress, and it's all a bit of a journey for all of us, particularly at these weird times.
But it is also about me. I mean, it's kind of, let's be honest, these kind of things, you do that, a lot of people do them at the beginning, and then they forget, they don't think about it after that, because they've got, well, they're busy usually or whatever. But yeah, it is worth taking a breather, trying to do like a, I mean, I'm not saying I do this, but I know the ideal would be to take a kind of planning day on a regular basis, do a breathe in and do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I know it's easier said than done sometimes, but yeah, I think it's good practice to get into if you can. Absolutely. Okay. Nicola, did you want to?
Can I just start to help wrap up? Well, firstly, thanks, Jo. That's given lots of food for thought. It always sparks new thoughts and ideas, and hopefully the series of sessions that we've put together today that will sort of help you take a step back, peel back the layers of the onion on what it is you're trying to do and who might be involved in that kind of soup of stakeholders and people that might be allies, might be saboteurs, might be clients, might be you know, beneficiaries. It will just help you kind of think through how to get hold of them, what you might need to do, or how you might need to communicate, or where you might need to be to get there and to get to them. I'm going to end our recording there, and I'm just going to wrap up the session with a couple of updates and last bits.